Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls conclusion of India-New Zealand FTA as a historic milestone. New Zealand is to invest $20 billion in the US, in India, I beg your pardon, in the next 15 years. Japan prepares to restart the world's biggest nuclear power plant. Japanese Regional Assembly backs a plan to restart the Kashiwazaki Kariba plant nearly 15 years after Fukushima disaster. Cambodia accuses Thailand of carrying out airstrikes on its soil despite agreement at the ASEAN meet for the 24th of December meeting to explore ceasefire revival possibilities. A general is killed in a car bomb blast in Moscow, marking the latest high-profile attack on a Russian military figure. And Brussels hits back at China for slapping provisional duties of up to 42.7% on its dairy products, calls the action unjustified and unwarranted. Bangladesh remains caught in a vicious cycle of violence and protests again following the lynching of a minority member and the killing of a student leader last week. Vandalism and arson at the offices of two major dailies also prompted journalists to hit the streets to vent their misgivings and seek justice. The Unrest-led government has even been pilloried by former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for jeopardizing ties with India, presenting a fresh challenge to the interim government set to hold general elections in February next year.
Protests by different sections of society on a daily basis triggered by incidents of lynching and arson are rocking Bangladesh. Over 100 journalists in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka rallied on Monday to protest vandalism and arson at two major dailies during violence that erupted after the death of student leader Sharif Osman Hadi. Crowds set fire to several buildings in the capital last week, including the offices of leading newspapers, Prothom Olo and the Daily Star. The Minority Unity Front also got together the same day in front of the National Press Club in Dhaka, accusing the Mohammed Yunus-led interim government of failing to stop violence, killings and persecution targeting religious and ethnic minorities. A coordinator of the front took up the issue of the lynching of minority garment worker Dipu Chandra Das last week on suspicion of blasphemy, charging the administration of indifference as authorities were still to contact his family members.
There was a man named Dipu Chandra Das. He was mainly a worker who lived in Mymensingh, and he was brutally killed by Tawhidi Janata in the name of mob justice. But he was innocent.
Bangladesh's Mohammed Yunus-led interim government also came in for some heavy flack by the nation's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. She sharply criticized the Mohammed Yunus-led interim government for straining bilateral ties with New Delhi. She asserted that the current tensions are entirely Yunus's making, as his administration issues hostile statements against India, fails to protect religious minorities, and allows extremists to dictate foreign policy. Hasina highlighted India's decades-long role as Bangladesh's steadfast partner, emphasizing that deep fundamental ties will outlast any temporary government. She accused Yunus of emboldening extremists who attacked Indian missions, placing them in power, releasing terrorists and granting immunity to hooligans. Warning of multiplied lawlessness, minority persecution and eroded credibility under Yunus, Hasina expressed confidence that legitimate governance will restore the sensible 15-year partnership.
Unless the elections are inclusive, unless they're fully participatory, Awami League, Jatiya Party, all these must be allowed to take part in the elections, then you can say that whoever comes, any party may come, but that will be something that the people of Bangladesh will accept. What Sheikh Hasina is clearly saying is that the people of Bangladesh will not accept an election which is not participatory.
Bangladesh is set to hold general elections in February next year. But with repeated incidents of violence, protests and questions over the legitimacy of the exercise, holding polls in a free, fair and timely manner will remain a challenge in the strife-ridden country. Bureau Report, DD India.
And further, in Bangladesh, a leader of the National Citizens Party, the NCP, was shot in the head by unidentified assailants in broad daylight in Khulna on Monday. Motaleb Shikhtar, Khulna divisional head of the NCP and a central organizer of its labour wing, Jatiya Shramik Shakti, was attacked in Shonadanga area. According to witnesses, the attackers targeted his head before fleeing the scene. The police said motive behind the shooting remains unclear and identities of the assailants are yet to be established. And we'll return to Bangladesh in just a bit with an expert guest to talk about the situation there. But moving on for the time being, Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to hold talks on the 24th of December to de-escalate tensions and move forward to establish peace after a month of bloody border clashes. This was decided after ASEAN foreign ministers meeting in Malaysia on Monday. But soon after, Cambodia accused Bangkok of carrying out airstrikes on its territory. Mohammed Afsarul Hassan brings us more in this next report.
Defense officials of Thailand and Cambodia will meet on Wednesday to resume a month-old ceasefire after fierce border fighting between two countries. At least 80 people have been killed so far in border clashes. The decision was taken on Monday during a special meeting in Kuala Lumpur of Southeast Asia foreign minister who were trying to salvage a truce brokered by ASEAN-chaired Malaysia.
The meeting is scheduled, and this is proposed by the Cambodian side, on the 24th of December. So we will be working towards, and this time, let's thrash out the details, make sure that the ceasefire reflects the situation on the ground, and the ceasefire is one that really holds, and both sides are going to fully respect the ceasefire.
Thai Prime Minister said on Monday that China has not asked Thailand to sign any peace deal, but expressed a desire to see peace in region as fighting along the Thai-Cambodia border entered its third week.
They didn't tell us to agree to anything, they just told us they want to see peace, which for Thailand's, our stance is clear that peace can only happen once our demand and condition are met. You all know what they are.
The regional peace push comes as the US and China pursue separate diplomatic efforts to end the conflict, with no sign of success so far.
Cambodia and Thailand are both important members of ASEAN. China appreciates and supports the mediation efforts undertaken by ASEAN countries, especially Malaysia. As a friend and close neighbor to both countries, China sincerely hopes that both Cambodia and Thailand, guided by the need to safeguard the peace and stability of their borders and the fundamental interest of their people, will quickly cease hostilities and restore peace.
Bangkok and Phnom Penh accuse each other of aggression and violation of an enhanced ceasefire agreed in October in Malaysia in Trump presence, during which they committed to demeaning and withdrawing troops and heavy weapons from areas over which sovereignty has been contested bitterly for decades. Thailand has vented its fury over what it says are landmines being newly laid by Cambodia, among the world's most landmines-plagued countries. Phnom Penh rejects the accusation. Cambodia's defense minister said Thailand had violated its sovereignty on Monday with more armed aggression and vowed to defend what it said was its territory at any cost. Mohammad Afsarul Hassan for DD India.
Now, one of the fastest trade deal India has sealed with a developed country, India and New Zealand, on Monday announced the conclusion of a landmark free trade agreement. It's expected to come into effect by July or August next year, once both the countries complete the required legal and ratification processes. More details in this report.
In a significant economic and strategic advancement for India's engagement in the Indo-Pacific region, India and New Zealand have successfully concluded a comprehensive, balanced and forward-looking free trade agreement. This milestone reflects the visionary leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and aligns seamlessly with India's ambitious goal of achieving Viksit Bharat by 2047. Prime Minister Narendra Modi engaged in a productive telephone conversation with New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, during which the two leaders jointly declared the successful conclusion of the India-New Zealand FTA. The agreement stands as one of India's swiftest FTAs with a developed nation. Prime Minister Modi commended the conclusion of the FTA in a record time of 9 months, emphasizing that the FTA will profoundly strengthen bilateral economic ties, expand market access, foster investment flows, enhance strategic collaboration, and create transformative opportunities for innovators, entrepreneurs, farmers, MSMEs, students, and youth across diverse sectors. At a subsequent press conference, India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal highlighted the agreement's people-centric focus, noting New Zealand's commitment to facilitate $20 billion in foreign direct investment into India over the next 15 years.
This $20 billion, we must see in the context of the size of the New Zealand economy. So far, in the last 25 years, New Zealand has only invested $70 million. So they are committing to invest now 1,80,000 crores.
This investment will target key areas such as manufacturing, infrastructure, services, innovation and job creation, while transforming bilateral relations from friendly to formidable in trade and innovation.
This is the 7th free trade agreement. All of them with developed economies, with significantly larger per capita incomes than India, demonstrating that we are expanding trade relations rapidly with countries who complement the Indian economy.
The India-New Zealand FTA establishes a high-quality economic partnership, marking a significant milestone in the bilateral ties of both nations. Upon entry into force, the agreement will ensure zero duty on 100% of India's exports, with tariff elimination across all tariff lines. The FTA creates new opportunities for India's services sector, spanning IT and ITES, finance, education, tourism, construction, and other areas. In addition, enhanced mobility provisions for skilled Indian professionals will enable Indian talent to access better global opportunities. It will benefit farmers, MSMEs, workers, artisans, women-led enterprises, and youth, while providing immense opportunities for labor-intensive sectors. Prominent industry leaders and business stakeholders in India have enthusiastically welcomed the FTA.
This will create a new innovation ecosystem and manufacturing capabilities in India, as New Zealand has some technologies which they'll be bringing to India. At the same time, we are also very sure that with this FTA, the bilateral trade and new business opportunities, new market opportunities will be there for our small businesses as well as for whole industry.
New Zealand is a very important player in the Indo-Pacific, especially for India. Both countries can work together and achieve very good results for the benefit of both countries.
As India's third FTA concluded in 2025, following pacts with the United Kingdom and Oman, this new generation partnership marks a pivotal stride towards building a globally competitive, inclusive and resilient economy, fully embodying the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. Bureau Report, DD India.
And we'll be returning to this story right after the break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. A discussion with an expert on India's FTA with New Zealand when we come back. And French President Emmanuel Macron attends a military drill in Abu Dhabi.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now let's talk about the FTA that India has struck with New Zealand. This is the third in the year. This year itself, we have Ambassador Mohan Kumar to talk about it, former senior diplomat, joining us. Good evening to you, Ambassador Kumar. What do you make of the rapid pace at which India has been signing FTAs, bilateral FTAs, really with different countries, particularly in the last few years?
Thank you very much, Gautam, for having me. No, I think it indicates two things. One, we have seen the writing on the wall, and I want to tell the viewers that in terms of trending international trade, a lot of it is going to be preferential and reciprocal in the future. Right now, majority of the international trade is MFN, which is most favored nation. But anybody will tell you that is not likely to be the case in the future. And therefore, the future of international trade is preferential and reciprocal, that is to say, FTA. So I think India has read the writing on the wall. The second thing that India is trying to do is, as a result of the difficulty that we are having with the American market in terms of trying to arrive at a trade deal, since then, I think we are doing our own diversification. So we do not believe it's a good idea to just depend on 3 or 4 markets. For example, if you ask me which are the $100 billion markets for India, it is US, EU, Gulf, and then China/ASEAN. But I think what the Commerce Ministry and the Government of India is trying to do is to see whether this risk can be diversified, especially in the light of 50% tariffs from the United States. So New Zealand may not be a very big market, but every $1 billion helps in terms of India's objective. And therefore, I think this FTA holds a lot of significance. Also, Gautam, bear in mind, every time we conclude an FTA, we open up our market. Our industry and manufacturing becomes that much more competitive. As you know, one of the problems that Indian manufacturing suffers from is lack of competitivity. Now, with opening up of the market, even to small markets like New Zealand, the industry will be forced to adapt, forced to have latest transfer of technology, and forced to compete. So that is why I believe this strategy is important. We have done it with UK, we have done it with Oman, we are now concluded with New Zealand. I hope we will be able to do the one with the EU and the United States next. But as I said to you, every single market helps India diversify its export basket.
Yes, well, the UK and this one with the New Zealand are still to come into effect, but still it is, of course, opening up India's access to different zones in the face of what primarily the US has done. To a certain extent, these markets have also been facing the onslaught of Chinese dumping of goods as well at very cheap rates. So they are looking for alternative markets themselves. But do you feel that such trade terms of FTAs will also help India get access to other markets, apart from the fact that they have got access to the markets that they have done these tie-ups with?
I think you're right. What happens is that supply chains are now very hard to predict. It should not be assumed that trade just happens from point A to point B. So I can give you several examples of products where supply chains involve more than 2 or 3 countries. So you're quite right. It can help India get indirect access to other markets in the region. But I also want to say that in terms of technology, for example, honey production, in terms of trying to cultivate fruits, we can get the latest technology from New Zealand. So you should not calculate this just in terms of dollars and cents and say that it is true that trade is only $1.3 billion. It's true that trade and services is only $2.4 billion vis-a-vis New Zealand, and the target is to make it 5 billion. So 5 billion may not sound like much. The fact is we will be getting valuable transfer of technology, maybe only 5,000 temporary visas, but still 5,000 is 5,000, and they will be able to go and work in New Zealand for 3 years. At any given point in time, 5,000 people can go and work. More importantly, I think India's labor intensive sectors get 0% duty access in New Zealand. That is big, Gautam, especially for
Certainly.
textiles, garments, for marine products which are facing problems in the United States. You have also pharma products, for example, which will now get access to New Zealand at 0% duty. All our exports will now get 0% duty. That's a big deal, even though I keep saying, yes, it's a small market, but
Okay.
nevertheless, every bit helps. And I think that is the kind of opening we are seeing from New Zealand. Last but not least, as the Commerce Minister said, $20 billion investment. Again, it's not like it is 100 billion, but still, this is valuable investment. Every bit of
Certainly,
investment, I think India should grab.
Every little bit counts, and that seems to be, the real leitmotif here, and moving things along in terms of trade, ensuring that barriers come down, not just in those territories, but indirectly also is a very significant component, because if you look at what's happened in Oman, it has an FTA already with the US for the last 20 years. So indirectly, we could also get access to US markets without those 50% tariffs. So let's see how things work out. Thanks for joining us this evening, Basit Mohakumar. Now, a senior Russian military officer was killed in a car bomb attack in Moscow on Monday. Russian investigators say Ukrainian special services are one possible line of inquiry. The incident has come even as diplomatic efforts to end the conflict intensify, with US, European and Ukrainian officials holding fresh talks in Florida. Washington says the discussions focused on a proposed peace framework and security guarantees for Ukraine, while Russia has signaled willingness to offer legal assurances on NATO. DD India's Nishoy Roy reports.
A deadly blast in the heart of Moscow and intense diplomacy unfolding thousands of miles away. Violence and diplomacy are colliding in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia's investigative committee confirmed that Lieutenant General Fanil Sarvarov died after a car bomb exploded in Moscow on Monday. Investigators say Ukrainian special services are one possible line of inquiry. The attack comes as the US, European and Ukrainian officials held a 3-day of talks in Florida aimed at finding a path to end the conflict. US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff described the meetings, including talks with Russian negotiators, as productive and focused on a shared strategy between Ukraine, the US and Europe. The discussions were centered on a US-drafted 20-point peace plan, security guarantees for Ukraine, and economic measures for rebuilding the country. As diplomacy gathers momentum, Russia has said it is ready to legally assure that it has no intention of attacking the European Union or NATO. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said only the United States can persuade Russia to end the war.
I believe that such strength exists in the United States and in President Trump. And I believe that we should not be looking for alternatives to the United States. All alternatives are under question as to whether they would be able to do this. To be honest, I believe that this should be a diplomatic victory of the United States, not a defeat. And therefore, Putin must be stopped.
Zelensky has also rejected Moscow's suggestions on holding elections in Ukraine.
It is not Putin who decides when and in what format the elections in Ukraine will take place, because these are exclusively Ukrainian elections for the people of Ukraine, for Ukrainian citizens. He is definitely not a citizen of Ukraine, so he will definitely not influence anything, including the result. This is especially true for those who vote, the citizens of Ukraine who are in Ukraine on territory controlled by Ukrainians, because here we can already ensure fair and transparent elections.
With violence escalating on the ground and negotiations intensifying behind closed doors, the coming days could prove decisive for the prospects of peace in Europe. Nishchoy Roy's report for DD India.
And just to add to it, Russia's investigative committee has confirmed that a Russian general has been killed in a car bomb blast in Moscow on Monday. Lieutenant General Fanil Sarvanov, head of the Russian General Staff's Army Operational Training Directorate, was killed, said the committee, adding that one line of investigation is that the bomb was planted by Ukrainian special services. Japan has taken a major step towards reviving nuclear power more than a decade after the Fukushima disaster. A regional assembly in Niigata Prefecture has backed a plan to restart the Kashiwazaki Kariwa nuclear power plant, marking its first move towards operation since 2011. The vote follows approval last month by Niigata Governor Hideo Hanazumi, clearing a key local hurdle for the restart. The plant was shut down after a massive earthquake and tsunami triggered nuclear meltdowns at Fukushima, prompting Japan to suspend atomic power nationwide. China has announced provisional anti-subsidy duties of up to 42.7% on selected dairy imports from the European Union. The duties will apply to products such as milk and cheese, including France's iconic Roquefort. The levies are set to take effect from Tuesday. The European Commission has strongly pushed back, calling the move unjustified and unwarranted. EU spokesperson said the investigation was based on questionable allegations and insufficient evidence, and warned that the measure lacks a sound legal basis.
To impose provisional countervailing duties on imports of dairy products from the European Union. The Commission's assessment is that the investigation is based on questionable allegations and insufficient evidence, and that the measures are therefore unjustified and unwarranted.
In response to the United States' recent appointment of a special envoy to Greenland, the European Union has reaffirmed on Monday its commitment to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Kingdom of Denmark, including Greenland. The EU spokesperson emphasized the importance of maintaining Denmark's borders and sovereignty as a fundamental principle for the EU. Earlier, US President Donald Trump on Sunday announced the appointment of Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as the special envoy to Greenland.
It is not for me here to comment on US decisions, but what I can say about the EU position is the following, which has been our long-standing position on the matter: that preserving the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark, its sovereignty and the inviolability of its borders is essential for the European Union.
French President Emmanuel Macron is visiting the United Arab Emirates to celebrate Christmas with French forces stationed in the country and reinforcing bilateral ties with the Gulf state. During his trip, Macron, accompanied by French Defense Minister Catherine Vautrin, attended military drills at the 55th Cavalry Regiment Training Centre. The visit highlights France's commitment to supporting its troops abroad while also strengthening its strategic partnership with the UAE. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson on Monday defended the Islamic Republic's missile program as a defensive effort.
Iran's missile program was developed to defend Iran's territory, not for negotiation. Therefore, Iran's defense capabilities, designed to deter aggressors from any thought of attacking Iran, are not a matter open for discussion.
And still to come on DD India News Hour, we'll be talking with our expert guest on the ongoing unrest in Bangladesh. And we also get you an update on the cold weather from the northern parts of the country. back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and let's return to our top story, which is all about Bangladesh, where different sections, including students who were responsible for the change of government in that country, have been protesting after a spate of violence that has taken place. Even today, a student leader has been shot in the head, just as another last week was shot dead. And we also have the media in the crosshairs of different anti-social elements, apart from members of the minority community, that is presenting a very, very disheveled sort of a picture of Bangladesh in terms of having things under control in a build-up to a nationwide election just a couple of months away. To talk about it, we have Sushil Kumar Singhal with us. He's a former senior diplomat. Good evening to you, Ambassador Singhal. What do you make, first of all, of the situation in Bangladesh and India's neighborhood?
Well, Bangladesh is, undergoing, I think it's a deep crisis at this moment, particularly after the killing of this student leader, Hadi. And the way the government has, interim government has handled the crisis. And because it has not been effective in controlling the violence, which was, which came some of the element used this occasion to make an anti-India, anti-Awami League, anti-Hindu atmosphere. And it clearly, shows that there is a certain element of the society. He is not very keen that the elections in February should take place. Because they feel that they don't have the majority with them and they will lose the elections. And the interim government's handling of the situation has also not helped the matter, because they have been very selective in controlling the crowd and controlling the way the violence is spreading, because it's not spreading in one or two. It is very, very, our areas, but I would say it is very, very, controlled manner, in the sense, it has been pre-planned the way it is happening simultaneously in different cities. And now this the organization of this student leader, Inqilab Manch, has threatened the government, interim government, that they will not, they will continue to protest against the government, and they will, unless and until the killers of this Mr. Hadi are brought to justice. And now it is also it's taking a different shape. I think this group's attempt now is to turn anti-establishment, which I think is a very sad, because the elements, I would say extremist elements, are using this to vent or to control the liberal forces in Bangladesh. So unless the interim government is able to control the situation and protect the people's life, I think the situation is going to deteriorate. And my fear is it is all leading towards postponement of the elections, which I think the objective of this extremist element who are fanning this, this violence.
Could we talk about the track record of the interim government in terms of how it has consistently tried to build upon an anti-India narrative, to cover up for its shortcomings on almost every front, not just law and order, but economy and others?
Well, it's a very pertinent question. The thing is that we have to remember that this interim government's legitimacy is in question, because the constitution is not suspended, and there is no provision in the Bangladeshi constitution of the interim government. So its legitimacy in question, one. Two, they are not able to control the economy. The economy is going downwards. There's a lot of unemployment. So people are very dissatisfied. So what they are trying to do is using an escape route, which is trying to blame India for whatever is happening there, because it's very easy for them. India become a soft target, because India, they feel that India is a big brother, and easy to fan anti-India feeling. So the interim government is using this excuse of anti-India propaganda. I think they are in a tacit, I say directly or indirectly, they are encouraging it, which is not a very good sign, because we have to remember that Jamaat-e-Islami, which is anti-India, an extremist organization, and once this interim government came into power, into position, they removed the ban from it. It's no longer banned, and all the leaders who were earlier arrested and imprisoned after the long inquiries and long cases, they have been all released. Now they are going in the town and encouraging all the anti-liberal forces. Like we have seen, Prathamalo, Daily Star, the liberal newspapers who are not neither favoring Awami League or the present government.
Right. We have, in fact, put out a quote of Sheikh Hasina, whose party, in fact, has been banned
targeted by them
by
and
the
the
interim
police.
government. Yes, we put out a quote of Sheikh Hasina, whose party has been banned by the interim government. You were mentioning how the extremists have been given a free rein, and she's questioned not just the policies of the US government in terms of having an anti-India stance, but also questioned its legitimacy and the elections which will be held in a couple of months from now. So do you feel that in such a scenario, these elections can be held smoothly? Because even this leader who was killed, the youth leader, he was also a candidate in the upcoming elections.
No, that's what I'm saying. That my fear is that all this build-up is for the purpose of postponing the election, because if this atmosphere continues, the interim government will claim that the atmosphere is not right, situation is not right for holding the elections, and they'll try to postpone, because we have to remember that Mohammad Yunus government was not very keen to hold the election. It is the parties, particularly the BNP, which feels that they are in the position, they would be in position to form the government, particularly when Awami League, the largest party in the country, has been banned from participating in the election. So first of all, there is a question on the legitimacy of this election which is going to take place, because largest party is not allowed to take part in the elections. Secondly, as I said, the interim government was not very keen, it was forced. So I think they will look for excuse, and this is what the build-up is going to be. And when Sheikh Hasina says this, I think she has justified in her fear that they don't want to hold the election, free and fair elections.
Right. Well, for now, India has stopped consular service for Bangladeshis, and I think there's been a reciprocal move as well from Bangladesh's end. So things are not looking too good between India and Bangladesh at the moment. But we have to wait and see how things change if and when there's an election. Perhaps we have to wait for that to happen, or there could be some movement even otherwise, because these kind of hostilities are not good between neighbors. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Ambassador Singhal. Now, India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has arrived in Colombo on Monday evening. In a post shared on X, Dr. Jaishankar thanked Deputy Minister of Tourism of Sri Lanka, Ruwan Ranasinghe, for the warm reception and said he looks forward to his meetings with the Sri Lankan leadership tomorrow. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued a warning for dense to very dense fog conditions across large parts of northern India. During the night and early morning hours of the 23rd of December, widespread fog is expected to blanket north, central, east and northeast India as well. Regions at a higher risk include Punjab and Uttar Pradesh, where dense to very dense fog is likely to prevail. Delhi, NCR, Haryana and Chandigarh are also expected to be affected. Other states on alert are Rajasthan, Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Odisha. In the northern belt, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and the Jammu region are under watch. Foggy conditions are also forecast for the northeast, including Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. Authorities have cautioned that visibility may reduce drastically, leading to disruptions in road, rail and air transport. Meanwhile, in Jammu and Kashmir, Gulmarg has been blanketed with fresh snowfall. Around 8 inches of snow has accumulated, transforming the popular tourist destination into a winter wonderland. Snowfall continues in the region, adding to the festive charm, but also reminding visitors to take precautions while travelling. Union Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav has dismissed claims that the Aravalli Hills are under threat, calling them misleading and baseless, and has reiterated the government's firm commitment to protecting the fragile ecosystem. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya with this report.
Coming down heavily on what he termed a campaign of lies and misinformation, Union Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav rejected allegations of ecological dilution in the Aravallis. Referring to the Supreme Court ruling on the definition of the Aravalli range, the minister clarified that there is no mining allowed in the NCR and no new mining leases will be granted.
कुछ लोगों ने भ्रम फैलाने की कोशिश करी, तरह तरह के झूठ और मिथ्या प्रचार किए जाने लगे। प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में विगत वर्षों में ग्रीन अरावली मूवमेंट को, ग्रीन अरावली के विषयों को आगे बढ़ाया गया है। यही कारण है कि 2014 में इस देश में जहां केवल 24 रामसर साइट्स होती थी, अब बढ़कर के 96 हो गई हैं।
Highlighting the scale of conservation, Yadav said the Aravalli range is protected through 4 tiger reserves and 20 wildlife sanctuaries, stressing that the region remains safeguarded under existing environmental laws and Supreme Court guidelines.
अरावली का जो ऑलरेडी कोर एरिया है, चाहे वो हिल है चाहे ना हो, जो प्रोटेक्टेड एरियाज हैं, क्योंकि अरावली के क्षेत्र में 4 टाइगर रिजर्व्स हैं, अरावली के क्षेत्र में 20 वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी हैं, अरावली के क्षेत्र में सरकार के द्वारा जहां पर पेड़ लगाने का कार्यक्रम किया गया है, चाहे ग्रीन इंडिया मिशन में हो चाहे कैंपा में हो, वहां पर फ्यूचर में इस निर्णय के बाद भी कोई माइनिंग नहीं है।
Clarifying the facts on mining, the minister stated that out of the total 1.43 lakh square kilometer Aravalli area, only about 217 square kilometers is eligible for mining, and that too under strict scientific management plans approved by the court. Reiterating the government's resolve, Yadav said the Aravalli Hills remain under robust protection through the Environment Ministry in coordination with state governments, ensuring conservation while balancing responsible development for future generations. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. DRDO and Rashtriya Raksha University ink an MOU for defence and internal security. India's policy think tank Niti Aayog releases a report on internationalization of higher education in India.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, a brawl erupted in the Turkish parliament on Sunday between members of the ruling AK party and the Republican People's Party on the final day of the budget session. An argument between 2 parliament members from opposing parties escalated as others joined in, with MPs throwing punches and pushing each other. Parliament Speaker Numan Kurtulmuş adjourned the meeting after the fight. The General Assembly later reconvened and the 2026 budget was passed. Top political leaders in Nepal continue high-level engagements as uncertainty looms over the future of the House of Representatives. President of the Nepali Congress, Sher Bahadur Deuba, and CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli held talks on Monday at Deuba's residence in Maharajganj, discussing contemporary political developments. Meanwhile, Rashtriya Swatantrata Party Chair Rabi Lamechane, addressing party workers at the RSP office in Kathmandu after his release from jail, asserted that there is no alternative to elections. Lamechane also met Prime Minister Sushila Karki on Sunday evening at the PM's official residence in Baluwatar. And in another development, Nepali Congress Central Minister Dr. Shekhar Koirala said the party is preparing for House of Representatives elections. Speaking during an interaction with youth in Morang Koshi province, Koirala reiterated that the party's Central Committee has already decided to move ahead with polls. India's push towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliance in defence and internal security, received a fresh boost today as the Defence Research and Development Organisation, or DRDO, and Rashtriya Raksha University signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, to strengthen collaboration in research, education, training and technology support. The MOU was signed at South Block in New Delhi in the presence of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, marking a significant step towards building indigenous capabilities for defence and internal security during this period. The partnership between the two brings together DRDO's cutting-edge technological expertise and Rashtriya Raksha University's academic and policy strength in internal security. The collaboration will focus on joint research projects, PhDs and fellowship programs, specialized training for security forces, and studies on emerging operational challenges. The initiative is expected to enhance technology preparedness, support life cycle management of DRDO-developed system for security forces, and reinforce India's strategic autonomy through a whole-of-nation approach. National Mathematics Day is celebrated across the country on the 22nd of December to mark the birth anniversary of legendary mathematician Srinivas Ramanujan. On the occasion, over 80 leading mathematics researchers from around the world gathered in Mumbai to discuss how mathematics can play a transformative role in shaping the future. The three-day program brought together acclaimed mathematicians at the Lodha Mathematical Science Institute in Mumbai, which is the only private maths research institute in India.
When you think abstractly or think mathematically, at one blow you can solve 1 million problems. So therefore it has that scaling ability built into it. If you combine that with tools like AI, then you really have a powerful set of tools by which you can actually scale to levels that wouldn't be possible otherwise.
At a conference in New Delhi on Monday, Niti Aayog released a report on the internationalization of higher education in India. According to the Indian think tank's report, only 3% of India's students go abroad for higher education, while 97% study within Indian higher education institutions. According to the 2024 data, over 1.3 million Indian students are pursuing higher education abroad, with Canada, the US, the UK and Australia being the most popular destinations. The report also notes that around 50,000 foreign students studied in India in 2021-22, with one-third coming in from Nepal. The National Education Policy 2020 highlighted the internationalization of Indian higher education, allowing top global universities to open campuses in the country. At the conference, Niti Aayog Vice Chairperson Sumit Berry said the report stresses collaboration between universities and the government, with the public-private partnerships playing a key role.
I will read the report carefully. I looked at it in contributing a message about where the responsibility lies and really how the institutions and government need to work together, because I think this needs to fit into the business plans of individual universities, particularly those in the private sector, and I think Pramath is probably representing that group, but it must take place in a facilitating framework, and I think we're not used to thinking of PPPs as a model, but that is the kind of model that we are going to have to aim for.
The Reserve Bank of India, in its monthly report for December, mentioned that the Indian economy, supported by resilient domestic demand in Q2, of 2025-26 financial year grew at its fastest pace in the last 6 quarters. It emphasized that at a time when global uncertainty retreated further from its highly elevated levels, high-frequency indicators for November suggest that overall economic activity in India has held up, with demand conditions remaining robust. The statement also reported that the headline CPI inflation edged up but continued to remain below the lower tolerance level. In addition, financial conditions remained benign and the flow of financial resources to the commercial sector remained robust. Time now to get some sporting updates as well, starting with cricket. After cruising to a comprehensive win in the opener, Indian women will look to tighten their grip on the 5-match T20I series when they take on Sri Lanka in the second game at Visakhapatnam on Tuesday. India wrapped up the chase in just 14.4 overs in the first T20I. Jemima Rodriguez struck an unbeaten 69 to guide India to an 8-wicket win. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka need more support from their top and middle order. Vishmi, Harshita and Hasini all showed brief intent in the first T20I but struck at under a run-up ball. Skipper Athapattu said after the loss that 121 was well below par and conceded that Sri Lanka played overly defensive. With conditions set to remain similar before the series moves to Thiruvananthapuram, India will start as favourites again while Sri Lanka search for consistency. Former Karnataka all-rounder Krishnappa Gautam has announced his retirement from all forms of cricket. Gautam finished with 394 wickets across formats for Karnataka in a career which spanned nearly 14 years. The crowning glory came in 2018-19 when he played a key role in Karnataka's Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy triumph. In 2021, Gautam earned his India cap on the tour of Sri Lanka. He returned with figures of 1 for 49 in his only ODI. Gautam had a brief IPL success during his time with Rajasthan Royals, where the late Shane Warne famously turned him as his IPL project in 2018. In his IPL career, Gautam represented 5 franchises across 36 games and picked up 21 wickets. India's ODI skipper Shubman Gill, world number 1 T20 batter Abhishek Sharma and pacer Arshdeep Singh were named in the Punjab squad for the Vijay Hazare Trophy on Monday. Gill and Arshdeep might just be available for 2 to 3 games, with ODIs against New Zealand set to start on the 11th of January. Punjab, clubbing in Group C along with favourites Mumbai, will play its first 2 games against Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh. These are the games in which Gill and Arshdeep's availability is expected. Abhishek, who will only be summoned only for T20Is, will be available for more games. New Zealand crushed West Indies by 323 runs on Monday to win the 3rd test at Mount Maungani and seal a 2-0 series victory. Jacob Duffy's 5-wicket haul proved crucial to the win. The host side set a target of 462 and bowled out the touring side for just 138. Duffy finished with 5 for 42, backed by Ejaz Patel, who claimed 3 for 23, while opener Brandon King top scored for West Indies with 67. New Zealand's Devon Conway scored 227 and 100 in 2 innings, while captain Tom Latham scored 137 and 101, the first opening pair in first-class cricket history to score twin centuries in the same match. Now, in the latest FIFA Men's World Ranking, Spain maintained their position at the top of the global standings. Despite clinching the 2025 Arab Cup title, Morocco remained in the 11th place, just 0.54 points shy of breaking into the top 10 for the first time since April 1998. Jordan rose 2 spots to 64th, making it one of the few teams in the entire ranking to climb more than a single position, alongside Vietnam and Singapore. The global distribution of footballing power remains heavily concentrated in Europe. Of the top 50 nations, 26 are affiliated with UEFA. Now, Captain Mohamed Salah trained with Egypt ahead of their Africa Cup of Nations opener against Zimbabwe, slated for Monday night in Agadir. Egypt's talisman is at the tournament in Morocco on the back of a fiery outburst after being dropped by the Premier League champions. Salah has twice been a Cup of Nations runners-up in 2017 and 2021. Egypt coach Hussam Hassan has said that Salah has put aside his travails at Liverpool and is focused on Africa Cup of Nations. Zimbabwe's head coach Marian Marinika also praised the skipper of Egypt and said that when it comes to the national team, Salah is a flagship player.
Salah obviously is a player that could score 3 goals against Real Madrid. So if you have to worry, we'll probably just pack and go home. So we know exactly that how good Egypt are, and part of that fantastic team, Salah is one of them. It doesn't matter what at the moment goes through the club, but when it comes to the national team, he's a flagship player.
And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy. And from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.